me. I am a public service lawyer by day, a personal finance creator in my spare time. Um, and today I want to walk through the pivots that I've gone through in my personal finance journey, creation journey, and then pull out some of those lessons that I learned and how I'm planning to apply them in a day job pivot in the coming year or two. So, for anyone that's read anything I've done in the last couple of years, it may be surprising to know that my original content, it was pretty bootstrappy. Um, I took personal finance and packaged it up with productivity and the psychology and philosophy of happiness and made a blog called Optimize Your Life. Um, and I was basically writing stuff that would be helpful for me and people in my position, right? Um, and I am a cis-het white guy with a good, solid income, right? So that's the field of people I was talking to, really. Um, I started thinking about how I wanted to pivot after the 2016 election, and my I had a personal Twitter account and a blog Twitter account, and my personal Twitter account I was going off all the time on politics and policy and how we can um, be helping people that were going to be hurt by new policies that were being implemented, and sort of volunteer opportunities that we could use to help people. And on the blog side, I was doing straight, uncontroversial money talk, right? Um, I listened to a podcast that had a guy named Jason Kander, who was a former Senate candidate from Missouri, and he said something to the effect of, "We all have a platform. How are you going to use yours?" And I thought about that a lot. I still think about that a lot years later. Um, and here I had this platform, and I was using it to help people like me who really, in the grand scheme of things, didn't need the help, right? Everyone needs some help, but this was not the community of people that really needed to be lifted up. Um, so I knew the direction that I wanted to go in. I knew from my personal account, this is where I was passionate. This is what I was passionate about, where I felt like I could help people and what I wanted to push. At the same time, I didn't want to lose my audience, right? We were constantly told, I don't know if this is still advice, but don't mix politics in personal finance. You're going to turn off your audience. No one's going to listen to you anymore. And what's the point? What's the good of having a platform if no one's listening to you, right? That would be pretty counterproductive. So I took some cautious steps at first. I started writing about income inequality and wealth inequality from the perspective of, showing people that you have more money than you think you do, than you feel like you do. And so here are ways that you can use your time and your money to help people that need help, right? So it was still my old approach. I'm still using data and numbers to show how individuals can take, what steps individuals can take in their lives. But it was shifting the goal. Instead of saying, here's how you can make your life better, here's how you can be more productive, here's how you can make more money, it was, here's how you can use your time, your money to help other people, and why you should, right? So I started there. That went well. I started pushing a little bit more, pivoting a little bit more, and just pushing step by step by step, right? And I found that the pieces that did the best, the pieces that got the most traction, were where I was incorporating both that original approach, that passion, and also the skills that I had built in my day job as a lawyer, right? So it's, the really heavily researched, the detail-oriented, nuanced arguments, the places where I could highlight the arguments of people who disagreed with me and then kind of systematically say, here's why they're wrong and I'm right. right? And so I just leaned into that, right? Here's my passion, here's my skills, let me take another step in that direction, let me take another step in that direction, let's keep pushing. And those pivots really added up over time. I looked up, the other day I pulled up the Wayback Machine from to see what my last posts on the blog were. And my most recent posts were Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax proposal, personal finance and politics, Cory Booker's baby bonds proposal, Kamala Harris's LIFT Act proposal, the personal finance community's wrong-headed focus on victim mentality, explicitly calling out the FIRE community for a lack of charitable giving, advocating for women in the workplace, and a response to a manifesto, which as a whole, yeah, that was 14,000 words. It was, but there was a lot there. That's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, so that all really added up over time, just continuing to push. And one thing that really helped sort of decide where and how to push was Twitter, actually. One of those reasons is Twitter is a great place, a very low stakes place to test out ideas, right? It takes 5 seconds to write a tweet, send it out, see what the feedback is right away. And if your ideas are terrible, you can pretend they never happened and move right on. But you can also figure out what people are interested in, what gets engagement, what gets thoughtful responses, and that really helped my blog content and knowing where to push there. And the other thing about Twitter is it's much more of a community, right? You're having personal conversations, you're interacting with real people. You do that to an extent with the blogs, right? You're in each other's comment section and all of that. But this is much more immediate, and you really get to know people better, and you get to build that sense of community. So with that community in mind, with that Jason Kander quote in mind, those really pushed me in the direction that I ended up going. When the pandemic hit, I had a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old, and daycares shut down, and my wife and I were both working full-time from home. I decided I could not continue doing everything, and I shut down the blog and decided to keep the Twitter account. And I just really leaned into Twitter at that point and became more of like a personal finance personality on Twitter, right? And again, those pivots really just added up over time, right? I started at a personal, a self-improvement blog, and ended up at a Twitter account that is talking about how policy impacts people, how court decisions impact people, and how we can make the personal finance community a more empathetic and welcoming place. So that's my journey in a nutshell. I'm moving forward, right? I am currently a public service lawyer. I graduated law school with $250,000 of student loan debt, which has since grown to $335,000. Currently, I owe $335,000 to the Department of Education. Yeah, it's with income-based repayments. My payments were less than the interest that was accruing. By the time the student loan payment freeze went into effect, my payments were $2,000 a month, which was enough to knock off 2 cents of principal every month. So really making progress. Yes, so I'm in the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. I am tethered to the list of acceptable employers right now. Next year, I will get my forgiveness, and all of a sudden, I will have options again. So I've started thinking about what's next, and looking at my personal finance content journey has been really helpful to figuring out how to approach that question, right? So the first step I'm looking at is, you assess where you are, where you want to go, what direction you want to go, right? So what would you feel good about doing? What are you passionate about? What are the skills that you have in your back pocket, right? Take all of that, see if you can mash it up together, get a starting place there. So for me, I'm someone who's passionate about policy advocacy, pushing for sort of large-scale systemic change, that sort of thing. My particular skill set is heavy on research and writing, having those nuanced, detailed discussions and debates, that sort of thing. So, smushing that all together, maybe that means something in, a nonprofit or an advocacy group. Maybe there's a political action committee, something like that. Like that's a place to start looking and trying to get a grasp on, what jobs are out there, either that exist and that I can jump into, or that I could make for myself there, right? Step 2, looking at what are some low stakes steps that I can take to try some of these things out, right? What is the Twitter of this of this job search, right? So I'm planning in the next few months, start looking at organizations, see are there places that I could volunteer my time? Are there places that I could talk to some folks who are doing work in that area, right? Can I test out some jobs, see if it's a good fit for me, see if it's something that I like, see if there are other skills that I need to build up, see if I'm missing something in the field, anything that I can look to there, and the last point to really remember is that these little pivots add up, right? We don't need to look at where we are, say, here's my dream job, let me try to jump there, right? You figure out where you are, what direction you would like to head, take a step. Once you get there, look around, assess, figure out where you want your next step to be, take that step, and eventually you're going to end up somewhere great. So just take that first step.